to Healthy Perspectives with Jeremiah, a podcast that brings you current social and cultural issues through a clinical lens. You can find us on Apple, Spotify, Rumble, YouTube, all kinds of places to look for us. Please like and subscribe on any of them or all of them. We also love interacting with our audience, so join us on all the social platforms such as LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and many more. Hello. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us again. I got a good one for you today. I hope this one hits pretty hard and you walk away thinking about some things maybe just a little bit different than you did at the beginning. Are you woke? I recently did a podcast on being woke, and I got some pretty interesting feedback about it, and I thought I would explore it just a little bit further with you today. So you're woke, but are you though? That's really the gist of today. You're woke, but are you? Today, I want to talk directly to my friends and others out there who are woke. So if you're woke, you came to the right place. If you believe you're woke, you came to the right place. I want to talk to you today. And I'm going to take it one step further. I want to ask you to participate in this conversation with me. I want to understand. I genuinely want to understand the things that I do not know. Those of you who know me personally, you know this about me. I am not somebody who sits back and thinks that I've got it all figured out. I know that I don't. I have a lot of things figured out in certain areas of the world. And the more I know I don't know, right? Like that's an old saying, but it's true. I know there's a lot of stuff I just don't know. And so I want to invite you to this conversation. If you think that you have it figured out better than me, send me an email. I'll bring you on the show if you're interested in having real conversation, like conversation that can change the conversation. One that doesn't come down to yelling profanities, calling names, stuff like that. If you think that you've got it figured out, I encourage you, one, to listen to this, but two, send me an email. All right. Of course, like and subscribe to the podcast so you get all my other content too. But if this is the topic that drives you, let's go deeper. Let's dive in and let's help the audience figure out what it all means. So again, this is directly to my woke friends. Those that believe they are aware of invisible societal injustices, because isn't that what woke is really about? Those things that the unwoke can't see. Isn't that what it's about? Those invisible societal injustices. And most of those are biologically inherited. All right. Now it's being expanded by people. I know that. But generally speaking, they're saying it's biological. It's the racism, the sexism, the sexual orientation, gender, things that are beyond our control or perceptively beyond our control. That's what fits into this category. So I have some questions for you. I got 5 questions. And at the end of this, it's my hope that we are exploring some very important things. Number 1, remember, I am talking to my woke friends. So I'm going to be very specific and say you to my woke friends. Are you aware that this view comes from a position of superiority. Now I'm going to get to inferiority later. Okay. So don't think I'm unaware. Not yet. Maybe at the end, think I'm unaware, but don't just jump right to that conclusion quite yet. The idea of being woke says, ha ha, neener, I know something you don't know. That's interesting. To me, it's interesting because that's also, and I'm not saying that because you're woke, that you are superior. There's a clause coming later. I'll help you out with that. Please don't just jump right there. Since that is inherently a piece of the puzzle, we do have to ask the question, is it a narcissistic view? Because, see, narcissism, the core element, probably the primary element of narcissism is superiority. It's the idea of belonging to a certain group of other superior people. So is the woke movement about narcissism? I mean, it's a legitimate therapeutic question I have to ask. So I propose clinically that those that can see things that others can't, and they don't bring along a massive pile of humility, right? This includes just intellectually intelligent people who see things more clearly. But with humility, there's a balancing to it. And I'll talk more about that. But those that can't see, who can see things that others can't, I propose from a clinical lens, at least, they may have mental health issues. That's interesting. Or they might be prophets, if you're spiritual. People who can see things that others cannot. So if you're somebody who can see things that other people cannot, I highly recommend you be skeptical, humble, and cautious. Because there's really not too many options from here. One of them is that you have a better vantage point. And another is that you have a diagnosis. And that's like psychosis, schizophrenia, things like narcissism, traumatic brain injury, maybe some delusional disorder. Right? These all fit into that category of these things that others cannot. So be careful, because if you truly do see things that others cannot, and you are healthy, there's a space for that. Here, let me walk you through it. Assume for a moment that you are wrong. I know that's a hard place to start, but I'm going to start there because look, when I love somebody and I care about somebody, which I do care about my friends that are woke or unwoke, right? I care about you. And in doing so, I gotta be really clear with you. So assume for a moment that you're wrong. I have empathy for you. Why? Because empathy is an attempt to see the world as if I'm you. And if you are wrong and delusional, and you do not see something that you believe is clear as day, there's a sadness to that as a therapist. It's like, oh, I wish I could help you. Just see this. But what I can do is love you anyway. I don't have to hate you because you have delusions or hallucinations or a traumatic brain injury. I'm like, that's absurd too. So then flip the coin. Assume you are right, that you do actually see something clearly that others cannot see. I have empathy for them, the ones who don't have the privilege that you have that can't see what you see, I have empathy for them because there's a sadness in being blind to what's right in front of them. Okay, question number 2. Why so much force behind these woke views? I know it's not all of you. I'm not going to generalize it and say it's all of you, but there are a good portion, a good enough portion of people who are woke and aggressive that I routinely hear people saying things from places of anger, not as loving, kind people. As if you could make somebody see it because you get angry enough. That's not really going to work very well. I trust me, I've seen couples and families go down that path, and routinely it ends up in brokenness, destruction, not health, not unification. So assume again that you're right with your view, at least. Is this the right approach? Is this how we're going to bring others along? Assume that you're wrong for a second, that your view is incorrect. Is this how you want to be remembered when your eyes open? As angry, frustrated, mean? I hope not. I really hope not. That's not how I ever want to be remembered, whether I'm blind to things or whether I can see them clearly. I want to be remembered as somebody who is kind, thoughtful, direct, compassionate. These are things that matter to me. I mean, I'm not saying they have to matter to you. Maybe you want to be mean, but ask yourself the question. Because if you don't, then you might want to change your tact. Question number 3. I'm going to give you a statement first, real quick. Woke was originally about racism. So when we look at the legal historical fact, for those of you who have been around a little bit, I talk about that periodically. Legal historical fact are those facts that we can verify, but we can't recreate scientifically. So they're not scientific fact. They fall in the realm of their fact because we know they happened, like your lunch yesterday or the day before. It happened. Can you recreate that particular lunch and that particular day? No, because that day is gone. It's come and gone. But there's a legal historical fact where we could put together enough evidence to say you in fact did have lunch or didn't have lunch that particular day, right? Legal historical fact. So question number 3 is this. Is it possible that using the lens of systemic racism, which is really what the woke culture right now is using, that we can create a new version of racism? Is that a possibility? So this is when many of my woke friends that I would interact with would give me a bunch of racial data. Now, I started there because I know there's other categories, but for today, I want to focus on this one for this part. Okay, the racial data that would be thrown in my direction. Well, there's this fact, they're underpaid, and there's this fact, they're overpaid, and there's this fact that, you know, they're more likely to have consequences and be in the legal system and this and that. Now, I'm not saying that to mock it. I promise you. I'm saying it because the same system that's creating the data is the system that you're saying is not woke. the racist system versus the woke system? And how do we collect data on a system from within the system? Now, we can. There's ways to do it. Those of you who don't know, I was going to be a mathematician. I was studying statistics when I had this epiphany that the most complicated mathematical problem on the planet is the equation we call the human equation. People are the most complex equations on the planet. There's so many complexities and pieces of the puzzle when we're talking about a human life. And I went, I got to study that. That's the equation I want to study. Now, that doesn't mean I look at people as equations. Although when I'm exploring their life, I am exploring the different puzzle pieces in depth because I absolutely love that exploration process. That being said, when we take this racist system and this woke system, and we understand that they are the same system, wouldn't taking the view of the woke system and the view of the racist system distort the data, no matter how you look at it? Because the woke system, even though it's within the racist system, according to some people who are woke, even though so that woke system is going to have the distortions of the system itself and the distortion of the woke culture. So the data that's being thrown at us now, some of it is factual, meaning it is real data and it has happened, and it may not have very much distortion or any distortion. And some of it has a lot of distortion. Because why? I mean, anybody who knows anything about data, we are going to pick the data and interpret the data from within the lens that we have on our face. When we look at it, we have the lens on our face, which is the premise behind the racist culture, right? It's the premise behind being woke, is that, yes, the system put these glasses on your face. If you're white, you can't see anything else. If you're black, you can't see anything else. If you're brown, you can't see anything else. That's not entirely true. We can take the lens off our face if we infuse empathy. Will we do it perfectly? Absolutely not. But we can infuse empathy into it, much like I did on question number 1, where I said, assume you're right, assume you're wrong. We can insert empathy and say, I can love you either way. That's a weird thing to think about, but it's possible. Question number 4. I know we talked about superiority early. We're going to move on to inferiority. Are Black people or are white people inferior? Because if it's about superiority, how do we decide who's superior and who's inferior? The lens of systemic racism is hinged on the concept of inferiority. It was born out of the concept of Black people being demeaned and made inferior. That when you look at the woke history, that's the lens with which it was created. So, who's inferior? Is it the Black, the brown, the white? Who is inferior? And who decides that? That raises a problem, doesn't it? If you're tracking with me, you already know the problem that raises. It's super easy to replace one crappy system with another crappy system. And do we want to make a jump from one crappy system to another? Let's get out of one frying pan and right into another and right into another and no, let's break the chain. I propose that neither is inferior. not black or white. Let's throw all the other races into it while we're at it. And how about we throw in all the other topics that go along with it as well? What did I say? I said racism, sexism, sexual orientation, or gender. Are they inferior? How about we throw into the equation people that subscribe to different religions? Are they inferior? No, I'm going to propose no. But I want your feedback. I mean, if there is somebody who's inferior, let me know. But the woke culture is based on the premise that Black people were made to be inferior and that it was baked right into the system. Now, like the fingerprint on your finger, our gifts are unique. You are unique. That's what I would propose. Question number 5. Do you want to unite people or divide people? That's a tough question, right? It shouldn't be. You should want to unite people. People who are similar and different. Bring them together. Why? Because unity is a big flipping deal. Division is a big flipping deal. If you are woke and don't accept the notion of superiority, I suggest you get more active, because right now your fellow woke folks are representing you with anger, aggression, hate. They are taking a superiority stance to try to rebalance the scale. Now, does that make sense? Are you going to take a superiority stance to rebalance the superiority that is already baked into the system? That doesn't make sense. And it won't work. It won't work. If you are woke and you consider yourself superior because of it, I propose that you have bought into the exact narrative you claim to be woke to. You bought into it. If you believe you are woke and you consider yourself superior because of it, you are no different than the system you are attacking. I don't have all the answers. I don't. I have lots of questions. I have many questions I didn't even propose today. Many that they made the list, but I was like, I gotta dwindle this down a little bit. I gotta help people see some things from different vantage points. And the way I did that is to ask questions. Why? Because I don't have all the answers. I have some. I gave some answers today, but not all. I go back to what I said near the beginning. Participate in the conversation, especially if you are woke and humble. Willing to help others come along and understand things in a new way without name calling, belittling, demeaning. Because truthfully, that's no different than the system you claim to be woke from. Help us, help my audience understand things. Help me understand things. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope this was helpful. Have a great day. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed the show. Take a look at the details of our podcast for links to our website and other helpful information.